Every single day, a woodpecker slams its head into solid wood about 20,000 times. At the moment of impact, its brain experiences a deceleration of 1,200 to 1,400 Gs. To put that into perspective, if you or I sustained just 60 to 100 Gs, we'd be looking at a severe concussion. Do it 3 times and you're in the ER. Yet, the woodpecker finishes its shift, eats some bugs, goes to sleep, and wakes up the next day to do it all over again. They've been doing this for millions of years. For nearly half a century, science thought it had this figured out. In 1976, a paper described a porous, spongy bone structure right where the woodpecker's beak meets its cranium. It looked like a built-in shock absorber. This single idea became absolute gospel. It was printed in every textbook, repeated by every nature documentary, and even inspired engineers to design better sports helmets. But there was a massive, glaring contradiction right in front of us that everyone just ignored. Think about how a woodpecker actually gets its food. It needs to deliver the full, raw force of its strike through the wood to dig out bugs or carve out cavities. If its skull were actively absorbing that energy, it would be like trying to drive a nail into a wall with a hammer wrapped in a thick kitchen sponge. The energy would just dissipate inside the bird's own head, and it would never get through the bark. Evolution doesn't design flaws like that. So, what's the real secret? In 2022, researchers put woodpeckers in front of high-speed cameras and proved that the shock absorber theory is a total myth. The beak and the skull stop at the exact same millisecond. There is zero padding. The entire head moves like a solid, unyielding steel hammer. They don't survive because they have a helmet. They survive because they are incredibly small. In physics, the smaller the brain, the less internal pressure it builds up during a violent stop. A woodpecker's brain is so tiny that the impact force never crosses the threshold of a concussion. Plus, they have a crazy anatomical cheat code. Their tongue actually wraps completely out of their mouth, goes around the back of their neck, and straps over the top of their skull like a racing seatbelt. This keeps their head perfectly locked in place, preventing the lethal twisting motions that destroy human brains. But here is the darkest twist. It is still not a zero-cost operation. When scientists actually looked inside woodpecker brains, they found massive accumulations of a toxic protein called tau. In humans, this exact same protein buildup is the definitive diagnostic signature of CTE, the chronic brain damage found in NFL players and boxers. This means woodpeckers aren't running around with a magical shield. They are likely sustaining brain damage every single day. But instead of trying to prevent the injury, their bodies have evolved a hyper-efficient neural repair mechanism that literally rebuilds their brain overnight. Those protein tangles aren't a sign of disease. They are the footprints of a biological construction crew fixing the damage in real time. So, why do they do it? Why pay this brutal physical price day after day? Most people think of them as the friendly forest doctors catching bugs. But that is a sanitized postcard version of nature. The reality is much more aggressive and much more destructive. Take the acorn woodpecker, for example. A single family can drill over 50,000 holes into a single living tree, converting it into a massive Swiss cheese storage locker for their winter stash. They will even intentionally hack into healthy bark just to force sap out, creating a sticky trap to lure more insects. They don't care about the tree, they care about food. But when you step out of the forest and into the suburbs, their behavior shifts into something truly surreal. Picture a suburban dawn. The air is crisp, the streets are completely empty, and before the first engine starts or the first car door slams, everything is dead silent. The windows are still, the gutters are still, and the light just begins to hit the utility poles. Then, the hammering begins. It's never a single smooth blow. It's an erratic, aggressive sequence of rapid-fire strikes on a metal rain gutter, an aluminum roof vent, or the hollow core of a utility pole. It shakes the silence of the whole block, and every material it hits responds with its own sharp, mechanical pitch. Most homeowners think the bird is just being stupid, looking for bugs in metal. But that's the blind spot. They aren't looking for food. They are using our human infrastructure as a massive acoustic antenna array. Every surface they strike reflects a different kind of information. A dead tree branch sends out a dull, brief thud that stays localized in the bark. But when that woodpecker lands on your metal gutter, it is conducting a test of materials, tension, and range. A single strike travels down the entire strip of the house, turning the gutters, brackets, and shingles into a massive musical instrument that vibrates through the very walls of your home. On a waveform monitor, these strikes stop looking like random noise and start looking like structured data packets. They are transmitting information across a shared acoustic channel, broadcasting time, urgency, identity, and intent. A smaller woodpecker delivers short, lightning-fast bursts. A larger species hits with massive, spaced-out, high-energy pulses. The rhythm itself is a declaration of power. It tells the listener that the beak behind the strike has enough muscle and structural integrity to withstand intense physical trauma. A short sequence is a quick check-in. A relentless machine gun rhythm is a challenge to the entire neighborhood. This isn't happening in isolation. Imagine two woodpeckers on opposite utility poles, with the quiet grid of suburban houses mapped out between them. Red acoustic waves blast outward from both sides, intersecting in the air right above your driveway. It is a constant, real-time negotiation. One drum says, "I own this grid line." The other responds from across the block, "Message received, but I'm not moving." If the rhythms mimic each other too closely, it quickly escalates into aggression. If they match perfectly, they can even coordinate defenses against outside rivals. Without ever building a wire or a tower, these birds have constructed a dynamic, constantly updating 3D sound map of your neighborhood. They are testing how the architectural environment responds, which walls amplify their voice, which empty lots let the sound travel farther, and which busy streets blur their signals. From their perspective, your neighborhood isn't a static landscape of houses and pavement. It's a living, shifting grid of acoustic nodes and contested spaces. And here's the wild part. Your daily routine is a predictable piece of their system. They know exactly when the neighborhood goes quiet, and they take over the infrastructure the second we leave it open. For decades, we looked at the woodpecker as a lesson in mechanical engineering, trying to copy their skulls to build better football helmets based on a scientific myth. But the real mind-blowing truth is about biological resilience. They didn't survive millions of years because they found a way to avoid the pain. They survived because they found a brutal, functional balance right at the edge of physics. A point where they are just strong enough to take the injury and just efficient enough to repair it overnight. So, tomorrow morning, when you are woken up at 6 a.m. by that relentless machine gun drilling on your rain gutter, don't just get annoyed. Take a second and listen. You are listening to a creature that is actively defying the physics of brain trauma, turning your house into a high-powered broadcast antenna and hacking the modern world in a way we are only beginning to understand.